Welcome to this explainer for the Collapse INC. Today, we're stepping into the anatomy of Europe's biggest post-war financial fraud. We're dissecting a digital empire that was supposed to be the absolute pride of German tech, but was actually built entirely on ghosts. The evidence is all right here. Let's read the verdict. June 18th, 2020. That is the day the auditor, EY, officially refused to sign the financial audit for a DAX-listed giant called Wirecard. And the reason comes down to a single glaring number. 1.9 billion euros in cash. Gone. It wasn't misplaced, it wasn't misreported, it didn't exist. This wasn't some clerical rounding error we're talking about. It was a total fabrication. So you really have to ask yourself, where did it go? Who took it? And why is the man who built this fraud eating breakfast in Moscow right now, protected by a foreign government, while the CEO sits in a Munich courtroom? Section 1. The fraud architecture. This right here was the machinery of deception. You see, Wirecard basically operated as a dual entity. To the public, it was this polished, cutting-edge payment processing network. But in the shadows, it was a machine running entirely on round-tripping and fake escrow accounts. It worked like this. A lump of money would leave a Wirecard bank in Germany, it would bounce over to a dormant subsidiary in Hong Kong, briefly visit an external customer, and then travel right back to Wirecard in India. To the local auditors, it just looked like legitimate business revenue. The public reality and the operational reality completely diverged. Let's take 2015, for example. Wirecard claimed it bought an Indian payments group for 340 million euros to secure massive growth. The operational reality? The asset they bought was practically hollow. Over 175 million euros just vanished entirely. Wirecard systematically used these opaque Asian shell networks to prop up faked profits. They inflated their intangible assets for one simple reason: to avoid impairment testing from their auditors. Let's think about the locations involved here. The Philippines, Singapore, Dubai. By 2017, over half of Wirecard's global revenues and almost all of its profits were supposedly generated by third-party acquirers in these exact regions. Take Al Alam in Dubai, for instance. It claimed to process vast sums for major global clients, but when investigators finally looked, they found a threadbare operation with just a half-dozen staff members. The margins were a complete mirage. The profits were forged. But fraud on this scale always leaves a trail. Whistleblowers talk, spreadsheets leak. So how exactly does a multi-billion-dollar house of cards survive when people actually start looking closely? Section 2. Journalists versus the regulator. On one side of this fight, you have Dan McCrum and Stefania Palma of the Financial Times. They published hard, undeniable evidence of systematic accounting forgery. On the exact opposite side, you have BaFin, Germany's elite financial watchdog. But BaFin didn't investigate the company. They defended it. They viewed Wirecard as a national tech champion that absolutely had to be protected from foreign attacks. The regulators' actions here were completely unprecedented. In early 2019, instead of auditing the forged contracts exposed by the journalists, BaFin issued a 2-month ban on short-selling Wirecard stock. They explicitly cited the threat to market confidence, and then they went a step further. They filed formal criminal complaints with Munich prosecutors against the journalists themselves, accusing them of market manipulation. They literally criminalized the press to shield their champion. The regulator became a shield. But the protection of a lie only delays the reckoning. It just guarantees that when the collapse finally happens, it's going to be violent.
Section 3. 7 days in June.
The collapse played out with the blistering speed of a digital transaction. Thursday, June 18th, EY refuses the audit. Friday, June 19th, CEO Marcus Braun resigns. Monday, June 22nd, Wirecard finally admits the 1.9 billion euros likely do not exist. Thursday, June 25th, insolvency. In exactly 7 days, a 24 billion euro DAX-listed empire vanished into thin air.
The walls closed in instantly. Police raided the headquarters. Investors lost billions. But when a digital empire evaporates overnight, who slips through the cracks?
Section 4. Jan Marsalek, the ghost.
Alexander Mikhailovich Neladov, Konstantin Bajazov, Alexander Schmidt. These aren't just random names. These are his false identities.
Jan Marsalek, the chief operating officer, fled Germany just hours after he was fired. Russian intelligence outfitted him with passports. This actually included the exact identity of a real Russian Orthodox priest from Lipetsk who physically resembled him. He shaved his beard. He became a state-protected ghost.
Marsalek wasn't just a corrupt banker. He had been recruited as a Russian intelligence agent by a GRU operative a full decade earlier. He used to literally boast to colleagues about trips to Syria as a, quote, guest of the Russian military. He used Wirecard companies to supply the Wagner Group with personnel in the Middle East, and he supplied Russia with sensitive, NATO-compliant computing hardware.
His escape was an absolute masterpiece of espionage. He faked immigration records in Manila to make it look like he flew to China, a total false trail. In reality, operatives arranged a private jet from Germany to Belarus. From Minsk, he was driven right into the protection of the FSB in Moscow. Today, he carries a Russian passport, he dates a Russian agent, he makes train trips to the front lines in Ukraine.
Marsalek slipped away, but someone had to manage the immediate, devastating fallout inside the Oshheim headquarters. While the ghost vanished, who was left holding the ashes?
Section 5. The second day.
I really want you to let this sink in. James Friess was hired to be the chief compliance officer. On June 18th, the exact day the 1.9 billion euros were declared missing, he was appointed to the management board. The very next day, Marcus Brown resigned. James Friess was named interim CEO of a doomed, insolvent 23 billion euro company on his absolute second day of work.
While the former CEO was busy recording YouTube videos playing the victim, Friess sat in a hotel room near the headquarters. He spent his very first night on the job reviewing transaction ledgers. He instantly uncovered what the auditors had somehow missed for years. The Philippine escrow documentation from banks like BDO Unibank and BPI was entirely forged. The money was never there. Today, Marcus Brown sits in a courtroom on trial. Jan Marsalek is in Moscow, living under the protection of the Russian state. As for the 1.9 billion euros, nobody has found it. The Collapse Inc. doesn't tell you what to feel about that. The documents already did. The money is still missing, and so is the man who took it.